We are jumping headfirst into some really deep esoteric lore today. We're skipping the main plot points you all know and going straight for the questions that, really haunt the fandom.
And today, we are focusing on one of horror's
Mm.
most enduring and complex villains, the ancient entity known as It.
Pennywise the Dancing Clown.
That's the one. And our mission, which is inspired by a really fascinating analysis of the lore, is to try and answer a pretty chilling hypothetical.
Okay, what's the question?
What happens if you find and actively disturb Pennywise during its 27-year hibernation beneath Derry?
Wow. Okay, that's a huge question. Because if you interrupt a cosmic horror's power nap, you're not just dealing with, a grumpy monster.
Not at all.
You're dealing with these huge philosophical paradoxes about consciousness, vulnerability, what existence even means for a creature that doesn't play by our rules.
Exactly. And before we can even think about an attack, we have to understand the mechanism of its existence. We have to start with the feeding cycle, because that dictates everything about the rest period.
Right, and it's crucial to establish this from the get-go. Pennywise isn't just eating. It's not trying to maintain a biological weight or something.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's way beyond a simple predator model.
Yeah.
What it's actually extracting is raw, potent fear. You know, the famous line from the books,
Fear salts the meat.
fear salts the meat. The quality of the terror itself is the energy source.
And that's why it goes after children.
Exclusively during its active cycle, which lasts about, 1 to 2 years,
Something like that, yeah. Before it's full.
children just have these vivid, unfiltered imaginations.
Their fear.
It's a pure psychological fuel. So once it gets its fill, which is usually marked by some huge town-wide catastrophe like the Kitchener Ironworks explosion, the entity retreats.
Right, it goes back down.
It withdraws deep into the sewers into its lair and starts that 27-year dormancy. And that, as far as we know, is the only theoretical window of opportunity someone might have.
Okay, let's unpack this, because calling it a nap is doing a huge disservice to how weird this thing is. We aren't talking about a simple biological power down.
Not even close.
This is a moment where the creature is somehow both here and not here at the same time.
It absolutely defies terrestrial physics. To get the hibernation, you have to get the two core forms of it. You have the true form, the deadlights, and then you have the physical manifestation.
Hold on, let's clarify those layers for everyone listening, because we're talking about more than just a big spider in a sewer. Can you give us a sense of what the macroverse even is in relation to all this?
It's critical. The macroverse is, think of it as the outside. In Stephen King's cosmology, it's the space outside time, outside our physical laws.
Yeah.
The deadlights, that's Pennywise's true original consciousness. It's just this raw, swirling, chaotic orange energy.
So the clown, the spider, that's just what we see.
It's just the physical toehold that the entities manage to manifest in our 3 dimensions.
So during the 27-year rest, the macroverse consciousness, the bedlights, is basically dormant, and the physical thing is asleep in the nest in Derry.
Right. And that leads us to the crucial vulnerability paradox.
The big question.
Indeed. The lore describes Pennywise as being at its most vulnerable during this 27-year period. Its influence over the town is way down, and it can't actively use its reality-warping psychic powers. But how deep does that vulnerability actually go?
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, if someone actually makes it through the sewers and finds the physical form, what do they find? A sleeping, killable monster.
Yeah.
Or just an empty shell.
That is the entire conundrum. When a creature exists partly outside of space and time, what is its state of mind during dormancy? Does 27 years feel like a blink of an eye to it? Is it dreaming? Is it even conscious?
And the answer to that determines whether an attack is even possible.
Exactly. It dictates everything.
Okay, let's jump into scenario 1 then. The most straightforward approach. The futility of physical attack. Let's imagine a team, they're well-armed, they find the dormant spider form, and they just try to end it with brute force. Explosives, guns, you name it.
That's the human default, right? If it sleeps, we can kill it. But we have to go back to that dual nature. The physical form in the sewers is essentially a construct. It's held together by active consciousness, by will.
So the theory here is that if the deadlights are dormant, attacking the body is like trying to stab a hologram, even if it looks totally solid.
That's a perfect way to put it. It looks solid, but the energy that's sustaining it is, well, it's either elsewhere or it's just shut off.
The lights are on, but nobody's home.
Exactly. The source material uses this fantastic analogy, the video game avatar theory. Think of Pennywise's true consciousness, the deadlights, as the player, sitting with a controller, somewhere in the macroverse.
And the physical spider in Derry is just the character on the screen.
It's just the avatar. So if the player takes a 27-year break and puts the controller down to sleep,
the avatar is just inert. It's still there in the game world, but it doesn't have any agency.
it lacks the active mental engagement, the psychic energy, that gives it real substance in our reality. It might look like flesh and bone, but it's been temporarily cut off from the will that binds it here.
I have to challenge that a little, though. If the physical form is really just an empty shell, why does Pennywise even bother keeping it around? Why not just pull back to the macroverse completely to rest?
That is a brilliant point, and that's where the analysis gets messy. It suggests that the entity must maintain some kind of anchor point in our reality, to make sure it can come back when the 27 years are up.
So it's a placeholder.
It's a placeholder. And while a physical attack on it might be futile, you're just wasting bullets on a ghost, the psychological damage to the attackers would be immense. You throw everything you have at it, nothing happens, and then the monster just wakes up on schedule, totally refreshed, and not even aware you were there.
Utterly terrifying. Okay, but let's pivot. Let's flip that assumption. What if needing that anchor point is the vulnerability? What if that's the whole key?
This is scenario 2, the window of opportunity.
Right, it's locked down, its psychic defenses are weak, its awareness is basically gone.
If that anchor point theory holds, then there is a legitimate chance to sneak in. The creature can't actively hunt or project, so all that psychic noise it usually makes is gone. You could, theoretically, get to the sleeping form and do some serious damage before it can react.
But there's always a catch with this thing. I just can't imagine it's fully offline, even when it's asleep.
And that's the twist. Its awareness is lowered, but it's not totally blind. Pennywise can inherently sense intense psychic energy. It feels the general fear of Derry all the time, so it would definitely register the massive psychic spike of a determined group marching into its home with lethal intent.
So it might not fully wake up, but it would enter a state of, what did the source call it? Defensive half-consciousness.
Exactly.
What does that even look like for something that exists in multiple dimensions at once?
It means the entity is only partially manifested. It's partially connected to the macroverse. It's unstable. And while you might be able to damage the anchor point in that state, getting near it would be like sticking your hand into a blender that's only halfway turned on.
Oh, that's a visceral image.
You're dealing with a fluctuating reality.
Yeah.
Physical laws might just bend or break around it. Its unstable form could lash out in ways that our minds just can't comprehend.
So you're not just fighting a creature, you're fighting the physics of its existence at that exact moment.
And we have to take that concept of existence a step further.
Yeah.
What about a distributed consciousness? What if the spider in the nest is actually just a strategic distraction?
You mean it's not all there?
Think about it. The lore says Derry attracts tragedy and violence throughout the entire 27-year cycle. High crime rates, weird accidents.
Yeah.
The influence is always present, just on a low simmer.
It's less like a monster living in a specific place and more like a psychic infection that's just in the air, permeating the whole town.
Precisely. If, during hibernation, the entity's consciousness is actually distributed, woven into the history and the psychology and the very geography of Derry, then destroying one physical spider form is ultimately
irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's just the focusing lens for its power.
So you could completely vaporize the thing in the sewers, but the real entity would just remain woven into the very stones and streets of Derry, as the book says, and it would reform 27 years later.
It creates a fascinating problem. You're forced to kill not just the creature, but the location itself.
Which shifts our whole focus from brute force to this idea of a cosmic clock. That 27-year cycle can't just be a timer it sets. It has to be something instinctual, right? A cosmic rhythm we can't see.
It brings up this huge existential question. Does human interference even matter to its schedule? If it only wakes up when, say, a celestial alignment happens, or when the background fear in Derry hits a certain level, then your attack is just a momentary nuisance.
But here's the massive danger the source highlights. What if the malicious intent of the attack itself acts as an alarm clock? You might not stop it from coming back eventually, but the psychic shockwave of invading its home could absolutely accelerate its awakening.
You force it to manifest ahead of schedule, and it would emerge angry, disoriented, maybe even damaged from the attack on its anchor point, and above all, desperate.
And that desperation would be devastating for Derry. If it wakes up early and wounded, it won't have the energy, or maybe the patience, for its usual slow, subtle feeding cycle. That long marination of fear.
No more slow burn terror. It would be forced into aggressive, high-energy feeding frenzies immediately.
The town would be plunged into a compressed nightmare, a series of sudden, violent acts and disappearances. It would turn Derry into a full-scale horror show overnight instead of the usual slow-simmering dread.
This loops us right back around to the only thing that's ever worked against it.
Collective belief and imagination. The Losers Club. They didn't win because they were stronger. They won because they acted with this absolute unified belief that they could kill it.
Pennywise lives and dies by the very tool it uses to feed: the power of human imagination. It's bound by the rules of the forms it takes. It is vulnerable to belief.
So, if a team of investigators approached the dormant creature, not just with guns, but with this overwhelming, unified conviction that it could be destroyed while it's asleep, could that psychic force become a real-world weapon?
Could their belief actually manifest as a real vulnerability,
Yeah.
making that already weakened physical form genuinely fragile?
That's the ultimate paradox, isn't it?
It is. Belief, which is so subjective in our world, is objective reality for Pennywise. It might be the one thing that makes a physical attack not futile. The mind, in that scenario, becomes the ultimate high explosive.
Wow. Okay. So we've established that disturbing Pennywise could lead to a totally pointless attack, a strategic retreat where it just comes back later, or maybe worst of all, an early, violent, desperate awakening that plunges the entire town into chaos.
The final conclusion from all the analysis is that the true horror of Pennywise is this fundamental uncertainty. We don't understand its rules. We don't understand its concept of time or its state of mind. Our human logic it fails against something so alien.
So what does this all mean for you, reading the book or watching the film? It feels like Stephen King designed the entity to be unknowable on purpose. The mystery is the horror.
Absolutely. The fact that we can't predict the outcome is far more terrifying than any concrete result could be. It forces you to constantly question what's real.
Which leads us to our final provocative thought for you to chew on, a kind of psychological nuclear option. Could permanent death only be achieved by destroying the sleeping physical form, while simultaneously creating a massive, town-wide emotional surge, flooding the entire geography of Derry with absolute, overwhelming joy, laughter, and collective disbelief? To counteract that distributed consciousness that's woven into the town,
You kill the body, and you overwhelm the infection in the town with pure, focused, positive energy. You attack the anchor and the root system at the same time. That is a truly fascinating thought experiment in weaponized imagination.
we'll leave you to ponder the logistics of getting an entire town to laugh hysterically at the same time. Thanks for diving deep into the darkest corners of the Derry sewers with us today. We'll catch you next time.